Today I want to speak about some of the most important breakthrough albums inside metal and rock music. Albums that they changed the whole scene of metal and rock, and they were so they influenced the whole spectrum about and brought to us some new genres. Some of these albums, maybe they are the beginners of these genres. Some of them, maybe they're not the first albums of the genre, but they are the most important. So let's start, and here I will say that there are some albums maybe that I forgot, some bands and some genres that I forgot to mention. But first of all, I want to say about to dedicate this video to the memory of two important people inside the metal community. First of all, in the beginning of March, we lost the frontman of the Swedish death metal band Entombed, and I'm speaking about Lars Petrov. In 7th of March, rest in peace. And here my favorite band album of Entombed, their first album, Left Hand Path. But together with this, one day before, in 6th of March, we lost the singer and frontman of the doom metal band from Puerto Rico, Dandensco, their singer Eric Morales. Here one first album of them, maybe this was the second or third album of them, Pagano. They are a doom metal band with Spanish lyrics. So also rest in peace. And now let's start. When we speak, for example, about the genre that today we know it as post-punk, maybe the band and the album that was very important to this genre is Joy Division from England, and their first album, Unknown Pleasures, a great album that also is so important for the post-punk, for the dark wave, and also for the gothic rock afterwards. Now, when we speak about thrash metal, the most important album is, of course, the debut album of Metallica, Kill 'Em All. There are some also people that will say that little bit before Kill 'Em All of Metallica, we had another also album, the first debut album of Exciter from Canada, Heavy Metal Maniac. But if we let's say that Exciter, they were even more speed metal, and Metallica, they are the leaders and the forefathers of thrash metal. Now, when we're coming to the stoner rock, stoner metal, desert rock, heavy rock, say it how you want, one of the most important bands from United States, the band Caius, if I prefer it well and correct, with this album, second or third album of them, Welcome to Sky Valley. Before Holmes left the band and started the Queens of Stone Age. Now, in the genre of what we say today of hard rock, of the metal of the 70s, let's say, or the forefathers of glam and hair metal, we have to speak about Kiss and their debut album of them, that this is so important for the whole genre of rock. And if we speak about heavy metal, the most important album and the beginner of the whole genre for many people continues to be the first album of Black Sabbath of 1970, and then speak about the debut album of Black Sabbath. Also, from this album. Some people, they will say that the doom metal genre started from this album. Together with this, if we're speaking about doom metal, there were some people that will say, okay, Black Sabbath, they are the beginners, but we have also to speak about the Swedish band Candlemas, because with this first album of them, the debut album Epicus Doomicus Metallicus, they gave also the name to the genre of doom metal. Now, about power metal, and specifically about the Europower, we have always to speak about Helloween. Their first album, Walls of Jericho, it was a more speed metal album. But the two other albums, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2, they are the albums that the power metal starting from there, let's say. For me, here I'm bringing the Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1, that I like it even a little bit more from Part 2. Folk metal, and today we have so many bands inside folk metal, but the beginning started with Skyclane from England, and their first debut album, the Wayward Sons of Mother Earth. Skyclad, they have some influences of thrash metal. They came out from the British thrash metal band Sabbath and from the new wave of British heavy metal band Satan. A great band and great album. In the last years, we saw another genre that is known by the name New Wave of Traditional Heavy Metal. And two bands, they were the forefathers of this genre. First of all, the Swedish Enforcer with their first album, Into the Night, and the United and the American band White Wizard with their first EP, classical EP, High Speed GTO. Epic metal. Okay, when we speak about epic metal, I could also speak about Manila Road, about Heavy Load, about Sirith Uncle, but let's say the band that is so connected with the title epic metal continues to be Manowar. And the breakthrough album of the whole genre for me is their second album, Into Glory Ride. Here I'm not bringing their first album, Battle Hymns, because it's a not so epic album, but Into Glory Ride, from here and afterwards we have the real leaders of epic metal. And now if we speak about extreme metal, some breakthrough albums, first of all, one album that maybe its music is not so extreme, but the whole concept is extreme. Merciful Fate from Denmark of King Diamond, and their first debut album, Melissa. Also, Don't Break the Oath, their second album comes together with this. But even more, we have to speak about Venom. Venom from England, and Venom with their first album, Welcome to Hell. They brought from here began everything, the whole spectrum of extreme metal, thrash metal, death metal, black metal, everything from here. But together with Venom, we have also to speak about another special band from Switzerland. First of all, Hellhammer, and their historic EP, Apocalyptic Raids. And Hellhammer, afterwards, they became Celtic Frost, Celtic Frost, and their debut album, Morbid Tales. And another also important band for the whole genre of death metal and speak about the American thrash metal in these days, Possessed, and their first debut album, Seven Churches. Also here they had a song by the name Death Metal. And now we are coming to speak about death metal, let's speak about the debut album of the American band Death, Scream Bloody Gore, also a very, very important breakthrough album for the death metal scene, together with the debut album of Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness. Another thing also about death metal, when we speak about the genre of new wave of Swedish death metal, or let's say melodic death metal, here, or the melodic death metal of Condenburg, here I could brought also at the Gates and Dark Tranquility, but I prefer to bring the second album of In Flames, The Juster Race. Now, when we speak about black metal, for me, the most important breakthrough album or the first black metal album continues to be the third album of Bathory from Sweden, Under the Sign of the Black Mark. And here also I could bring their first album, the debut album of Bathory, and the second album, The Return, great albums of extreme metal, but they are a little bit more thrashy. But from here, we have the real first black metal album. Together with this, when we speak about the Norwegian black metal, the second wave of Norwegian black metal, or what today we call it as cult black, true black, orthodox black, all these names. Two important bands. First of all, Dark Throne with their second album, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, that came out in 1992, and even more, an album that maybe came 2 years afterwards, but this is even the more influenced album inside black metal, the debut album of Mayhem, De Mysteris Dom Satanas. Another important band of grind or grindcore or grind death, and I'm speaking about the British band Napalm Death and their first album, Scum. This album, together with the first albums of Terrorizer from the United States, they are the most important bands for me and albums of grind. Now, when we're speaking about punk or punk rock, one of the most important breakthrough albums is the first and the only album of the British Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks, of 1977. And yes, Ramones, they made their first album in 1976, 1 year before. And also Ramones, they have a very, very big influence. They have a very big influence to punk, or to the American punk scene, the punk rock scene. But this album is the ultimate album of punk until now. Another special genre, let's say it as groove metal. Groove metal became so important in the beginning of the 90s because of Pantera. Pantera, in the beginning, they made 4 albums that they were something between heavy and glam metal, but with their 5th album, today they want to say that this is the first album of them, Cowboys from Hell, they brought a very big change to the whole situation of metal of these days. A great breakthrough album. Some people, they will say they took elements from the thrash metal band Exorder before them, but it's okay. For me, this is the most important influenced band and album of groove metal, together with Prong and etc., together with Machine Head, Pantera. They are the leaders. Another important band of the genre of metalcore, and yes, maybe the German band Heaven Shall Burn, they are one of the forefathers of metalcore, but the album that, let's say, this is the breakthrough album of the genre of metalcore, is the second album of Killswitch Engage, if I prefer it well, from United States, Alive or Just Breathing. Now, another genre, what we call it today, nu metal. Nu metal became so famous at the beginning of the millennium. We have very good bands from there, like Deftones, like maybe System of a Down, Slipknot. In any case, the band that began this genre is, of course, Korn and their debut album. And last but not least, the breakthrough album of grunge and afterwards of alternative rock in general. And I'm speaking about, of course, Nirvana with their second album, Nevermind. A great album that opened the whole scene of Seattle of grunge. And from grunge we have some important bands: Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and even more. But this album also was the beginning of the alternative, the alt rock, the alt metal, alternative metal also. A great band, a great album. Right, their first album, Bleach, became not so famous in these years, but with this album, and especially with the song Smells Like Teen Spirit, they brought a revolution inside the rock music of these days. This is about some of the breakthrough albums of rock and metal from Israel and from Jerusalem. Stay metal and stay heavy.